from the NBC Tower, this is Channel 5 News with Ron Majors and Carol Marine, John Coleman with weather, and Mark G. and Greco with sports. The Channel 5 News at 5.
At this hour, there is a report of an emergency in the air over Chicago, a Boeing 727 in some trouble. American Airlines Flight 1125, with 56 passengers and a crew of 7 on board, was heading from Omaha with a stopover in Chicago, then scheduled to fly on to Milwaukee. But this plane apparently lost a significant amount of hydraulic fluid over Des Moines.
We go now to Channel 5's Rich Samuels, who is live at O'Hare Airport. Rich, what do you know?
Well, not all that much, Carol. We're at the eastern edge of runway 9 right. This is the active runway and the runway that the aircraft will use for landing, and according to American Airlines officials, it is approximately at this hour that the aircraft is scheduled to land, though from my vantage point it's very difficult for me to see what kind of an aircraft it is until it makes a turn like that TWA one that perhaps you can see there now. Lining the runway here are emergency vehicles which have been brought in anticipation of the emergency status of this aircraft. The problem apparently was with one of its 2 hydraulic systems, the A hydraulic system, which apparently went out or in some fashion is disabled. There is a backup hydraulic system, and provided that that works well, there should be no problem for it to come in here. Along the way, it was initially thought that perhaps it would land at Des Moines. Then they thought of diverting it to Minneapolis, but in the end they decided that O'Hare would be the best place for it to come. Again, it is scheduled to land here any minute now with the 56 passengers and 7 crew members aboard, and we'll stand by, of course, here live to let you know just how this fares, Carol and Ron.
All right, Rich, we may even be able to come back to your picture as we also try to make a telephone connection with Jim Tillman, our science and aviation reporter. Jim, can you hear us now?
Ron?
Yeah, Jim, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you just fine.
Okay, first, we're all, concerned in comparing this immediately to the disaster in Iowa with a DC-10. This is not that kind of hydraulic problem, is that correct?
It's not anywhere close. First of all, if this airplane lost all of its hydraulics, it still can be flown, and flown with a great deal more control than a DC-10. The DC-10 uses only hydraulic fluid between the flight controls and the cockpit and the control surfaces on the tail and the wings of the airplane. This airplane has cables, and what the hydraulics will do is help to move those controls with hydraulic pressure. The loss of System A really just means that he's lost his nose wheel steering. It means that he has to crank the landing gear down instead of using hydraulic pressure to push it down. He's lost a little bit of his control on his wings and 1/2 of his rudder control. But it can be done. It's something pilots practice every 6 months in the simulator. He's well qualified and certainly in good shape to go ahead and do it. And I frankly will tell you that when you see this on camera, it should, I believe it's going to look like it's a normal landing and turn off the runway, and they don't bring out a tug to tow it into the ramp.
Jim, if the hydraulics are more manageable in this situation than they were in the other situation, what is the greatest risk here?
Well, the greatest risk is that always when you've lost part of your controls, it does require special skill and special technique to handle the airplane, and your level of risk goes up a bit. Also, he's landing on runway 9, and I believe he made that choice because runway 9 is, that particular runway is about 2,000 feet longer than the runway that is more directly into the wind. Now, because he's landing on runway 9 and the wind's out of the northeast, the difference in the wind direction and the runway direction is about 40 degrees, so he has a bit of a crosswind. This will take a little special technique to make the landing. There's always a chance that if, with the weather we've had in the Chicago area today, that might hit a slick spot and that sort of thing. But I guarantee you that this is something that happens very frequently in terms, now I shouldn't make it sound like it's routine, but it does happen more often than you might think, and it's absolutely no cause for alarm.
And the point would be it is handled routinely. So stay on the phone with us, Jim, and Rich, stand by at O'Hare, and we will hope it goes routinely this time, and we'll check back as we know something more.